Diablo 4, 6 months later, still horrible in many ways, but also very enjoyable to play every single day. It started with a lot of frustrated people, but now 6 months later, can you play it every single day without wanting to throw your PC out of the window? I'm in the camp of the game enjoyers, and I'll tell you why, but also at the same time, every point that I enjoy has a but. This is good, but. This is great, but. Let's begin. First things first, the level experience. The game started quite horrible in that, to be honest. It was taking some time to get to level 100, and especially the amount of things you could do to get there ended up in mindless nightmare dungeon spamming, and that was about it. Now, in Season 2, you can do this. You can do the same. You can still do the mindless nightmare dungeon spam. But realistically, we had the blood harvest from the seasonal event where you could level up, where you would have to spend time. There's always whispers that you're going to get, so already 2 activities intermixed with each other. Then there was a reason to actually do Legion events because you were getting the blood, whereas you also had to do the Hell Tides to get the steel. So they added bonus reasons to do every single activity. That kind of added some more fun and meaning to it. Because right now a Hell Tide went up, and it's like, wow, this is great. I can do a Hell Tide to farm steel. Fantastic. The problem being here that the Hell Tide still had this problem where it's just not permanently online and you're kind of gated to get a certain resource for Duriel. That's something they're luckily fixing in Season 3 already. So one of the points that's fun has a but actually getting really soon addressed. Now in Season 2, with all these bonus activities and especially the bonus XP, it was quite easy to get to level 100, which also allows you to get multiple characters very easily up. I mean, most people had 1 level 100 per season. Now I have 3 level 100s, and even my casual friends have at least 2, if not even more than me, because they are not just stuck with the Necro as much as I am. Now I have 2 Necros already, and that has a simple reason. They might have given us a refund button, which is fantastic, right? I'm actually out of gold. I can't refund at this moment, but they give us a refund button. So it's kind of fun. We can now quicker reskill and change our skill tree as well. Now I'll ask though, why does this still cost money? Why does reskilling cost money? So right now I'm doing the Abo 12 Zero. I re-rolled a lot of items where I actually want to spend some money, right? I was trying to get a certain stat replaced to have even more damage reduction on a chest piece, which cost me 50 million and I didn't get the stat. So now if I want to refund, I would have to do activities that I don't want to do right now just to be able to refund and be able to reskill. And that never feels good. Reskilling should be something that's just simply for free. Swapping between builds, hot swapping especially, interchangeable, having loadouts, having something so I don't have to essentially change everything every single time just to play a little bit different, especially when it comes down to dungeon pushing, overworld content, and all these things. Now, what I did is I just leveled up another Necro because I wanted to swap between blood builds and shadow builds. So I just made another Necro, and especially for me as the content creator, this is kind of the easiest solution, which brings a lot of pain with me because obviously every character needs to level up every single glyph again. Arguable, you know, might say that if you already have a Necro max leveled up and every single glyph on level 21, maybe the other Necro should also have every single glyph on level 21. It's just me though. We'll get fixed if we had any kind of loadouts. That's a big pain point there on the sign, especially for the casual player that just wants to have some fun swapping between builds, especially when creators come up with cool new stuff and they're like, oh, I would like to try this, but it's quite horrible to go for it. Gotta say though that I truly do enjoy the way how aspectization works in Diablo, of putting on the aspects and changing skills. For example, making my Bone Storm a darkness skill, and then my Blood Mist also desecrated ground, and that desecrated ground interacts together with my Paragon board, that when I'm standing in desecrated ground I'm doing 50% multiplicative damage. That's cool. That's super fun, and especially if you want to now test out if you're max damaging out, kind of not DPS, because DPS is not possible. You at least have the training dummy room here where you can go to try out some things. And this aspectization is so much fun, but at the same time so much pain, because we do have the Codex of Powers where a lot of aspects are in, right? But there's not every aspect in there. The reason for that is that you're forced to farm them, which brings another problem in itself, because There is an aspect, it's called the aspect of the exposed flesh for necros, that gives you an essence regeneration, and that makes some builds truly possible, especially the blood builds. And in total of now leveling up 2 necros to level 100, I've gotten, I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in my box. These are all the ones I've ever gotten of the exposed flesh. Now, the thing is, even if I target farm this, I've been actually trying to target farm a certain offensive aspect now for 2 days. Really trying. Like, let's say invested 6 hours to get it. I've not gotten it. I mean, these 6 hours, I might have had fun. I might have done some things. I didn't get anything else. I was just looking for this. So technically these 6 hours are wasted because I was trying to make progress in a certain direction. The simple matter of fact, in my opinion, every single aspect should exist as a super low roll in the Codex of Powers, which they already do. Obviously, for some aspects, it doesn't matter. The blood base, for example, is 60 to 50%. So the lowest low roll is not terrible. Now, for the umbral aspect, for example, it makes a huge difference because this one regains essence for crowd control from 1 to 4. The 1 is like kind of horrible. The 4 is fantastic. But still, at least being able to play a build you're looking for, Druid needs something that's called the Shockwave aspect. And the thing is, the Shockwave aspect doesn't exist here. But without the Shockwave aspect, the whole Pulverize build is quite Therefore, until you find it, you can't more or less play Pulverize to even a medium good level. That just feels horrible because you might simply, until you're level 100 or even after level 100, never have found one. That's not good gatekeeping. That's not play the game to get something. That's straight up Maybe being able to re-roll aspects. I mean, if I go with an offensive aspect in and I spend some money and resource for an aspect lottery, but even that brings the same problem. So just let us buy the base low-cost aspects. The same goes here that the aspects are stored still in your inventory. Yes, this is going to change. These stored inventory aspects are actually going to end up in the Codex of Powers, which is a good thing. But the problem here also is, let's say I find a 180% max roll, right? Or 120% max roll. If I then use it on an item, it's obviously gone. I can never use it again. But what we've been suggesting for quite a while now is, whenever I find a better aspect, let's say I find the max roll splintering, and I disenchant that at the occultist, then it should land in the Codex of Power and actually update the Codex of Power. So if the Codex of Power has an umbral low roll happening for 1 second, and then I'm essentially finding an umbral high roll, I put in the effort to get the umbral high roll, then I should always be able to pull this out of the Codex of Powers. Yes, I know, I hear your voices, that would reduce the tremendous farm needed in the game to a minimum, but it would also allow you to be even more able to try out different things, to not get so frustrated when you find a new item and you don't actually have the aspect anymore, especially since items can't be infinitely boosted. You will essentially always replace something at some point and then always have the perfect aspect ready, or the new item can't actually be used. Pain. Which brings us to the next point of itemization, obviously, where the stats are just horrible. Damage to shadow damage affected enemies, great. Damage to injured enemies, useless. Damage to slowed, kind of fine. Lucky hit up to 13% chance to slow. No one is ever going to use that, right? Blood orb healing, nah. No matter how much of healing you play, useless stat. Poison resistance, okay, sure, we need that. Dodge chance on pans, fine. Healing received, no one is ever going to go for that. There's something in Necro for healing received, but you're never going to be happy to see this on your item. So there's so many useless stats that are just beefed up on items, and the consideration is here that they just wanted to make as many affixes as possible. They made like 50 good ones, critical strike damage, vulnerable, and so on, and then they just added 100 shit ones, like movement speed for 5 seconds after killing an elite. Horrible. They already promised us to fix this kind of itemization, but we've been 3 seasons through this right now. But that fix better come very soon enough because the itemization is terrible. Especially when you're trying to re-roll some stat and you're getting some of these horrible ones because there's so many to choose from. And I'm looking for lucky hit chance, but I'm getting lucky hit chance to slow an enemy. And you're like, thank you. And then you're getting, oh, movement speed after killing an elite. That's so good. I hate this. The final point about aspects is we got so many uniques now. And that's a luxury problem though, because you can target farm the uniques. That's fantastic. They brought in the new bosses. Amazing. Now, with all the uniques though, and especially on Necro, I know Barb doesn't have the problem because Barb can just wield multiple uber unique weapons because they have like these 4 weapon slots. But for Necro, we are always in the I am not having enough aspects issue. All the Necro offensive aspects are so good that Necro does tremendously not need a single unique item. I could put every single unique off, and I could still efficiently do the Abattoir Vizier, and I wouldn't be that much stronger with the uniques. The uniques add a ton of convenience though, like the Litless Wall, where I just don't have to care about my barrier downtimes and get that going. But they're not like beefing up the strength level of Necro as much as they do for the others. And I generally feel like we could use 1 or 2 more aspect slots in general. Either a belt or earrings, something like that, more jewelry, but anything that just allows us to put 1 more aspect slot on. It's about this fun aspect of the game, because right now I can make very good builds that work, but I'm always ending up with, if I put that 1 more item in, I'm kind of going to be having to put out 1 key aspect that's going to kind of ruin the build and make it less fun. But with 1 single more aspect slot, there's so much more you could do, so much more to make those builds even more enjoyable and even better. That would be great. Anything, just, you know, like maybe think about it, Blizzard. All in all, this season, the season 2, is the season where I spend most time in the overworld. Honestly, I've done almost every single Legion event. I've grabbed all the whispers to get my axe. I've done the Blood Harvest countless times, and especially leveling in the Blood Harvest has been probably one of the best level experience I've ever had in the game, because the enemy density is just so humongous. I mean, you go from here to here to there to there to this to then to die to there to this, and you're going to be just swamped by opponents the whole time, which is brilliant. And now with the next season, Helltide being up permanently, and you actually being able to farm Helltides the whole time from season 3 on, with the great enemy density that Helltides have, that's good. And we could talk about Helltides obviously getting a boss event like the Blood Harvest has as well, because that's something that's kind of missing. Anything you could kind of like Helltide shards on top of the freaking cinders you get anyways, where you could summon a Helltide boss, that would be cool, you know? I hope they're actually thinking about upgrading that one as well. Final footnote for the Abattoir Vizier, they just added recently the new glyph, the new end game, the Abattoir Vizier, that's kind of missing any carrot. It has a big stick that you can slap on your booty and be happy about it. The glyph is fantastic. I mean, it makes builds that exist even more OP in any kind of content but the Abattoir Vizier, because the Abattoir Vizier was designed in a way that even hardcore players don't want to grind it, especially since there's a huge class imbalance right now. I mean, for me right now, if I want to get the tier 20 title, I know I have to make a barb. I know my Necro can, with insane amounts of farm, maybe get up to 15, 20 if I put in like all the hours to get it up to level 100. I just saw that when this glyph goes from up to 50, it actually is around 270% multiplicative damage. You notice how much more damage you're getting. But getting this to level 50 is going to be heinous amounts of hours put in that even hardcore players do not wish to put in, because it's not enjoyable. So the end game idea was cool, and it was definitely something where you can sink in another 10-20 hours. That's cool. I mean, for content bonus on the side, nice. But for the 99% of the player base, this is not content they're going to be engaging with on the daily. So you just make content for the 1%, and there's no problem with that, making content for the 1%. I am the 1%. But the other 99% of the community are kind of like, why does this even exist? I think more people are at this point are excited for the Midwinter Blight than for actually playing the Abattoir Vizier, which is kind of because there's skin, there's permanent rewards for your channel, there's things you unlock that you can keep over to the next season. So I can understand why people are excited for the Midwinter Blight, and it's good that they're doing also seasonal events. Now, the game has its issues. Minion Necro is still broken, and there's quite some other things that we don't enjoy as much as we could. And I definitely wish for one more defensive skill on him, but hell, I'm having daily fun with this. I thought I would do 40 videos for Diablo this season, and I'm kind of like still have a few more to go before I'm completely done for the season, and we're already expecting new season information to come soon. I'm happy. How are you feeling? What are your pain points? How are you still enjoying this? Now looking to play a cool Blood Surge build or the absolute Ultra Corpse Explosion Necro. Enjoy.